Mailman gang, rise up and welcome to Growing Up with Bricks. Today's episode we have Nicholas Anderson, or better known as Nikon Planet Ripple. Please enjoy.
I
So,
guess I'm ready to talk about Legos now if you are.
Yeah, totally. I want to ask you I want to start with this question. Who is Nikon Planet Ripple?
Oh gosh. I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm still looking into it myself. No, again.
Okay, so no,
I'm
I'll ask you a
the
better question. Who is Nikon Aqua Magna?
oh
Oh,
now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. A long time indeed. That's who I used to be, like way back at like 2008 and 9 when I first joined YouTube. So yeah, really YouTube was still pretty young at the time. It was only like 3 years old. Um, so yeah, I jumped aboard, and for a while I just made videos about video games. Then after about like 342 subscribers, I think I lost my channel. Not for any like violations or anything, but you know how channels are attached to email addresses.
Mhm.
Well, someone in my family was clearing out old email addresses that nobody uses anymore, and they deleted one that they didn't know was mine, and so I lost my channel and had
oh
to
wow.
rebuild from scratch. But I'm much happier with my new channel than my first one.
Wait,
It's
so like your original channel was called Nikon Aqua Magna, or
Yes.
okay?
So when I started the new channel, at the time, you couldn't use a username that was already taken. And there's no way to convince YouTube that, but it's me, I'm the same guy. So I had to call my new channel Nikon Aqua Magna 2,
Oh, because that's
which was really clunky. Um, and then a few years later, they allowed you to, use any name you wanted. You could even have spaces in them. So it's when I renamed myself Nikon Aqua Magna again. And then a few years later, I'm like, I don't want to just be attached to Bionicle. And this name is really confusing for people who don't know what Magna is. Too many people, sometimes people still like call me Aqua Manga. So I went with Planet Ripple because, it sounds kind of similar. It's another watery planet, has a similar ring to it, but, it could be about other things.
wait. So I got this question. Was Planet Ripple like the name first, or did you already have like was like the graphic novel already a thing? Did you change
I
your
was,
name?
I'd been working on the graphic novel since either very late 2013 or early
Oh, okay,
2014. It
so it
was
was already
right
a thing.
around New Year's. So, yeah, I didn't release the books until 2017, which is around the time I changed the name.
Oh, okay.
Because I realized, I've kind of pushed myself into a corner here. Like this username and all my Lego content is going to give people the impression that I'm just a Lego guy. So that's another reason I changed to Nikon Planet Ripple and did the same with my usernames on all these other platforms just to, consolidate the brand.
Yeah.
So
And so I want to start with talking about Planet Ripple because how hard was it to publish like just what's it called? In indie publishing? Or I don't know what's the proper term.
self-publishing.
Self-publishing. So what was that process like?
Well, it's really not that hard. It's not like someone's gonna, come to your house and go, "You better stop that right now." No, I had to go through the whole trademarking process, which took like a year and a half just to go through all the steps. And I even had to at one point get a 6-month extension because I wasn't ready to release the book yet. And this is the thing about trademarks. You have to release a work before you can trademark it, which might sound backwards to people. Like, what? But don't you
Yeah,
want
it's
to register it first to protect it? Well, no, because you need to prove to the government that you're using it. It's easy to waste their time by just sitting on a mark and never putting it on anything. So you need to send them like a picture of the goods or a screenshot of an online store to prove to them that you're not wasting their time. And then you get that protection, which is nice. I mean, look, technically anything you create, you could say that it's your trademark. If you had to take it to court, if you could prove that you were the original creator, they might let you have it. It's
oh,
just registering it, getting a big old stamp on it. It just gives you even more protection because if someone just sees a TM, they'll go, that means it's not registered. But if they see that nice shiny R next to it, they're like, oh no, I'm staying away from that.
Lego channels be like,
Yeah, it's just so funny. Like whenever I want to use like the Lego logo for a thumbnail or something, and you see that little R there. I'm like, oh. Anyway.
Yeah, I've seen like people get rejected, like the land thing, the what's it called? Ambassador Network.
Yes.
I've seen people get rejected because they have Lego in their name, and that's infringing on Lego's copyright.
That's why Jang changed from Lego Jang to Jang Bricks, was because he didn't want to infringe on Lego's trademark.
Okay, now I was really interested in talking about this because I got back into Lego. I grew up with Lego being kid. Bionicle was like the thing I used to watch, like when I was watching TV. I used to watch Bionicle commercials, and back then we couldn't afford toys or that type of toys. So like the only Bionicles I had were the McDonald's Bionicles. So that's like my first introduction to Lego. But like officially my first set was in 2010 with like Harry Potter stuff. And I want to know about you. Like, what was your entry to Lego? What was that developing?
Well, I had Lego basically since the beginning. Like at one point, a stepbrother, he had this huge bin, like one of those big plastic buckets, just full of old pieces from Old Town, like that one with the red garage door. That was like one of the first Lego sets I ever had. I was able to almost fully reassemble it just from the instructions by sifting through this box of way more pieces than were actually in the set. So that was one of my first experiences, was that old hand-me-down town set from way before my time. And as for things that I played with as they were released, I had a rescue set. It was that double-nosed boat thing. Luke's land speeder was one of my first Star Wars sets. I had the one of the like medium-sized Western sets, the teepee, with the natives. So those were some of my first Lego sets. And one of the divers sets. It was one that was just like the sub by itself with a little platform and a rock and a manta ray, like the perfect starter set for that theme. So yeah, those were all like my first sets. I don't remember the exact order I got them in because a lot of them were released around like 1997. But still, that was my first exposure to it, and I loved it. Well, I wouldn't quite say I loved it yet. I mostly like just picked them apart and put them back together out of boredom. But the point where I really fell in love with Lego, and since then I've come to love bricks a lot more than I did at first. It's just at the time I liked them, but I didn't really understand the importance of Lego or whatever. But when Bionicle released, oh my gosh, I was hooked. I didn't even know what it was. I was like playing with the C3PO figure, and I saw this advertisement in the back. I saw Anua and Tahu, and I'm like, who the heck are these guys? And like all the other little Toa, and that was it. I had to have them. But the thing is, at the time, I didn't really understand how the figures worked. I didn't understand Technic. I'd never touched like a Technic axle in my life. So when I saw these and saw how detailed they were, I assumed they were like a couple hundred pieces each and much larger than they ended up being, because they looked like they were made of a million pieces. When I got the actual figures, it's not like I was disappointed or anything. It was just really surreal to go into Toys R Us and see this little table with like short, like 4-inch high walls, just so the pieces wouldn't fall off onto the floor. And they had all these like partially assembled Bionicle figures for kids to just try out and handle. And I saw them like, what are these? And then I got Galley and my brother got Kopaka. And within a couple of weeks, we had the rest. And then the Taraga. And then we got the Borak. And it just kept going from there.
What year was that? Was it 2001?
2001.
So I wasn't even born yet. Wow. I was born in 2002.
Bionicle, weirdly, I think it helped with my development because I'm autistic.
Yeah.
And it was, you might not know it just looking at me now, but it was kind of severe when I was little. There was a lot that I just didn't understand. But Bionicle, it was something for me to latch onto, the way Transformers or Star Wars or whatever were for other people at the times that those were released. And it gave me a grasp of, stories, of lore, of mythos. And I started obsessively drawing them and trying to recreate the story. And in time, I finally started telling my own stories. and it just kept going from there.
Actually, I had a similar story. When I started, like I got into Bionicle, was it around 2007? Because I was born in Mexico and then I moved to the States. And so I moved to the States in 2006. And then I remember just, I was a fish out of water. Everything was new. And I remember seeing the Bionicles with the swords, with the light up thing. I forgot the name.
The Nika.
And then I remember, again, I got the Bionicle, the McDonald's toys, and they had the light up feature. But I got really obsessed when they went underwater.
Oh yeah, well it's funny when you said fish out of water. I thought for a second you said fist out of water, and I just imagined this fist bursting out of the ocean, which sounds like something they would actually do in Bionicle.
So I remember I didn't know the story. I remember seeing the designs and drawing them, and again I had the McDonald's toys, so I had like the reference, and I just created these stories. And I remember I was obsessed with Ben 10. So I used to write these stories where kids will become Bionicles and all that stuff, like weird. That was like my type of storytelling.
Considering he does turn into robots and like cybernetic organisms like Upgrade, it's totally feasible that, if Toa or Matoran were in the Ben 10 universe, he could transform into a Toa.
And I remember in recess, we used to play this game. All my friends, we would find like a mask and then we would turn into Bionicles. And that was like our recess and kindergarten game.
Neat.
So let's go back to the early YouTube stuff. How did you start a channel? What was that process like? Did you just watch YouTube and said, I want to do this stuff? Or
well, at the time, one of the reasons I started was to talk about Bionicle and Sonic and a couple other things. You have to understand, like in Sonic's case, at this time it was just stuff like Sonic 4 and Sonic Unleashed. Things like Sonic Colors hadn't even come out. And there was just all these weird debates about what Sonic should be and how automated it should be, how many speed boosters, how much you should boost, stuff like that. Yeah. And I didn't like a lot of the discourse that at the time was saying Sonic should just be about watching him run, just holding right or forward to win, and that's it. No platforming, no exploring, no nothing. And so I made my videos to, dang it, someone's calling me, whatever. So at the time, I just wanted to make some videos like countering the narrative, saying, no, here are some other things I like about the games. I think it could be more balanced than that. And in time, I started talking about Bionicle as well. And then Bionicle ended, which really messed things up. And let's see, then Hero Factory came out. And oh boy, that fan base was in turmoil. The point is, for the Sonic fan base and the Bionicle fan base, it was not a good time to be either of those things. And so I tried to make my videos just to show a different perspective that I didn't see talked about much. And then I lost my channel and I had to start over. And boy, at the time, if you wanted to make videos like longer than 10 minutes, you needed to have at least 13,000 views, which might not sound like much because that's just like total. That's just for your channel. But back then, YouTube was much smaller and it did take longer to make a fan base. So for the first couple of months, my new channel had barely any content. I was just like phoning it in. I was having to crap out like, oh, here's a video where I talk about X random thing, and it would get like 10 views. So yeah, for a little while there, it wasn't easy.
I mean, but then sorry, you no, keep going.
Okay, well, once I had 13,000 views, I could start re-uploading much of my old content and make it longer instead of like, oh, here's X game, but like part 1 and part 2 and part 3. I could just upload the whole review in one go. And they never got like the attention that they did the first time, but that's okay. I started making new content and that started to take off. And then 2017 is where it really blew up. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah. So how do you come up with Lego Rewind? I know you started with the 4 because we did the spoof April Fool's thing. And I remember the script, it said you started with the four videos, and that was just like the only thing planned. But how do you come up with the concept of Lego Rewind?
What spoof? Where you talk about that actually happened?
Yeah, it actually
happened. You're just hallucinating me. I'm your imaginary friend. Everybody watching this now is having a mass hallucination. Okay. Well, at the time, I was getting tired of just making videos about games, just being another YouTube game reviewer. I wanted to make other types of content, and I needed to make shorter content because I needed to free up more time for other things like comics, things like Planet Ripple, because this was around the time I was getting ready to release it. And I thought I really need to take this seriously. Um, you know, I can't let myself be distracted by so many time-consuming things and possibly never get this off the ground. So I started Lego Rewind, which at the time were pretty short form videos that were, pretty easy to put together. Only took like 3 or 4 days. And then in time, it became this bigger, higher production thing that started eating up a lot of my time, like the videos I was trying to get away from. So, started as a simple thing and then blossomed into this beast. And now it's just something that I come back to on occasion. Like just a little after this, I'm going to release another Lego Rewind episode.
Any teases? Or is it secret?
Let's just say that this that your computer will explode in 5 seconds.
Okay.
No, it's not. I'm not looking at the Lego Dimensions Mission Impossible thing. It's just something to do with the whole agents trope. You'll see.
Okay. So you just said it's.
I'll just say it's another deep dive, much like the beginning of the Alpha Team episode and the whole Time Cruises episode.
Actually, something I saw, because I rewatch a lot of your videos. You get a lot of comments of people suggesting Lego Rewinds, and you always respond being like, "I'm not your dog." So how just talk about how do you respond to comments?
Well, look, it just gets stressful, partly because of the sheer amount of comments from people, telling me to do this or that, but also just how demanding it's written. It's hard to gauge tone on the internet. So when I see these comments that are worded really bluntly, where they're not even asking, they're not even saying, please make a rewind about this, they're just saying, do this. That's how I read it. I read it like they're a drill sergeant barking orders at me. So naturally, I get really stressed out. I get a little triggered. And after a while, those just build up to the point where I'm responding to one of these comments. It's not just that comment. I'm basically responding to every other comment exactly like it all at once. And I have since gotten better at handling that because that's how I used to respond when I was doing like the first 2 seasons. And then the whole Kappa thing happened and this larger conversation about, about how young someone's audience may be. And up until that point, I had naively assumed that my whole audience was just adults. Yeah, I do. But that's just what I assumed because I was mostly talking about older themes that weren't being sold to the kids of today. So why would they want to watch these videos? Obviously, because it's Lego. Any Lego is better than no Lego. But yeah, at the time, I assumed that I was just talking to adults who had no manners, no tact, and were just badgering me. And then I got a response to one of these saying, that was my son on the computer. Don't worry, I'll block you so he won't bother you anymore. You didn't need to be so rude. And that's when I realized, oh crap. Now look, it's entirely possible that this, whoever it was just fibbing. That, it wasn't their mother's account or whatever. But just in case it was, that's when I realized, oh my gosh, there are children in my audience. I need to be better than this. I can't be so like mean. I can't be so like bitter. So these days I go a little easier on those people because I realize chances are they're just like a 10-year-old who shouldn't even be on YouTube, but just doesn't understand how demanding they're coming across, and I can't get mad at them for that. So I don't anymore. But now that I've reviewed so many themes, it's gotten to a point where like now when people demand that I, do this theme, most of the time I can just say, I already did that one.
Okay. Actually, it's kind of funny you say that because I started watching Rewind as I was a teenager. I was like 16, 17. And I was in my dark age. I treated Lego like just like this childhood memory. And then watching your videos, I was like, no, I can be an adult and still like Lego. I can still, just enjoy. If I enjoy it, there's no problem with it.
You see, that's another reason I wanted to make Lego Rewind. You asked before why or like how I came up with the idea, and um, basically I saw these people reviewing Lego. I saw people like Jang doing it and Just Too Good,
Yeah, the
and
big
I
ones.
thought I can't do that. I can't do that as well. Maybe on occasion, something like the mega reviews, which I made for Bionicle because, back when G2 was released, there weren't a lot of people saying the things that I was trying to say. That was another case where I felt like I had to stand up for the theme and show my perspective. But when it came to Lego generally, more brick focused stuff, I thought, there's so much cool stuff here and I want to talk about it, but how do I present it? And I thought, well, how about a guerrilla documentary style series? Like each episode, I focus on a theme that's been long gone and maybe compare it to more recent themes and just talk about like what it meant for Lego and culture. Um, so it's very much in the style of Board James. I don't know if you follow AVGN, you angry video game nerd, but I probably like his Board James videos more, where he looks at, old board games that nobody plays anymore. And so I didn't get the idea from that. Um, but in time, I realized that the presentation style was pretty similar. So I realized, it's like I see all these guys who fill these different niches, like how Chris McFeely does his Transformers the Basics videos, and there's a few other people who do that. That's another thing. Some have suggested, hey, could you do Transformers Rewind? I'm like, I just be saying the same things these other guys are saying. See, when I made Lego Rewind, it's like nobody had done that before. Nobody had made a documentary series where they look through each theme like that. And I thought, well, finally I can make something that I can really say is me, that stands out, that I'm the first to do. And I think that is part of what helped Lego Rewind take off. Because if there'd been like 5 or 6 other people doing the same thing on their channels, I don't think it would have taken off like it eventually did. But there was a novelty to it. It's like something that people had wanted for a long time, but just never got. And that's what, like, when I saw that impact that it was having on people, people sharing their stories, saying like, oh, my grandma and I used to put Legos together and she's gone now, but this takes me back to that. Or people saying like, hey, I never knew where these pieces were from. I just saw them like in a tub in the attic and wondered, but now I know it's from Ice Planet or it's from Snap. So that was where I started to take it seriously and realized, holy crap, I can reconnect people with parts of their childhood they didn't even know they had. So that's when
Actually,
like everyone.
you're also
Oh,
a great, like, you could work for Lego just marketing, because you are a great marketer. Every time I watch Rewind, I'm like, I should look at that set on eBay. Or like I was watching what's it called, Mars missions, or like it's the Mars mission and
Life on
aliens and
Mars.
Life on Mars, and I was like, I need some Life on Mars sets because those look neat. And I like the how you something you always talk about is you always focus on play, because then a lot of people always focus on value, but you always focus on play. And that's something I
Yeah.
really appreciate from you.
I especially love sets that connect together because they increase each other's value. So it's like a square root thing, where it's like you have a 1, then you have a 4, then you have a 9, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So it's like when you have a theme where all the sets are compatible that way, it's like the more of them you get like 500 different combinations of ways you can play.
So that's kind of I wish that I got into Lego earlier, because when I got into Lego, that wasn't a thing anymore. Like the last thing I got into Lego, like the last team I think did that was Power Miners with alt builds. Like you get 3 sets.
So, well, yeah, Power Miners was one of the last ones to put so much emphasis on alt builds, on completely taking the sets apart. But now sets are so complex and have so many little like wedges and other specialized pieces that are really easy to lose. So they don't do alt builds much anymore. It was easier when sets were simpler and had more big, easy to spot pieces and whatnot.
Yeah.
So they started to shift more, like they started to shift back towards the interplay gimmicks, like with Life on Mars. One of the last themes to do that, I think, was Nexonites. We also saw a bit with G2's second year. But yeah, I have those later Nexonite sets, and oh my gosh, it is really fun, like slapping a giant wing pack or cannons on another one, or giving them tank treads or whatever. I'm like, why doesn't Lego do this now?
Well, Nexonites is one of those themes I missed out on. I was in my dark age, so I didn't get any Nexonite sets. And recently I saw them for really cheap on Facebook, and I started getting a lot of them. And yeah, I love. It's such an underrated theme. The character
Oh
design
yeah,
is so good. Like I'm looking at I got the Jestro's Evil layer thing. Like we don't get sets like that anymore. Like it's so
it's
deep, it's so wide.
basically like if you just look at how detailed and customizable the minifigs are, all the
Yeah,
different weapons and gear, and even the shield powers, it's basically a tabletop RPG.
yeah,
It's like Lego's been flirting with that idea for so long, with Chima, with Nexo Knights, with Ninjago's like Master of the Mountain, waves like that. I just wish they'd do it already. Just make a full-blown tabletop Lego RPG with stat sheets and everything.
actually, I thought a way they could do this, and you know how Lego does the app integration things.
Yes.
I feel they could do that. Like they could do an app, like AR app that just keeps track of the stats and just focus on the toys and have the app be, the gimmick, have it be just stat keeping or maybe like who's dead, who's alive, lives, all that stuff. Because for kids playing RPGs or tabletop RPGs, I introduced my younger cousins to Dungeons and Dragons, and for them it's kind of just like they don't keep track of their stats and all that stuff, so it becomes boring for them at a certain point. So that's how I had this idea of Lego could just make an app. Like kids have phones, just have an app where they can just keep their stats. Maybe put like AR animations and stuff.
And there would have to be some kind of dice rolling mechanic.
Oh, definitely.
You don't want to, they would have to come with dice or something, because if you put it in the app, just it made it an algorithmic thing, then it would be completely unfair.
Lego had the what's it called? The GameCube or the game dice with the pieces. You remember that from 2010?
Yes.
So
with
they
could studs on them.
So why not use the tiles, the AR tiles, and that way the game could get the data.
that could work.
Now
they're doing a lot of this AR stuff now with stuff like Mario. You could conceivably make a tabletop theme that has a bit of app integration. It's just whatever you do, you got to make sure that there is some skill on the player's part and that it's not all like randomly generated by the app, because that would be completely unfair. But I think they could do it if they just didn't fly too close to the sun like they have been lately with stuff like video.
Well, the problem I have with the video stuff is that you focus way too much on the app when the app shouldn't enforce play. Like Hidden Side, right? Hidden Side, I think Hidden Side had the good idea, but it still focused on the app way too much.
They've been focusing more on the apps over time. Mario is kind of the exception, where I think the toys themselves still work as toys, even without the lights and sounds. But it's like it started with stuff like Ultra Agents, with the app bricks. And they really went out there with like Dimensions, and then Nexo Knights had a bit of integration. But in those cases, you were still getting sets that worked just as sets.
Yeah, toys, yeah.
Where the app was, a peripheral. But then Hidden Side came out. It's like, okay, so you build the set, and then you just sit it there.
And you grab your phone.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is your toy now, the phone. And that's where they went a little far, especially because the builds themselves were really good. Like, even if you're not into the theme, it's just nice to have a diner like that or a lighthouse. Most of those sets, I know it takes place like in New Orleans, but most of the sets could conceivably take place in Maine or anywhere, along like New England. It's just a really nice grounded theme. But they marketed the app more than the sets. It's like
even like the box art, right?
Yeah, they basically screamed at kids, don't like this for the set, like this for the app. The set is just a means to get to the app. And that's where it just got annoying and turned people off.
Yeah, and video is the same thing.
Yeah, and with video, it's like they didn't learn any lessons from Hidden Side. They just went, okay, this time, no sets. At least not for the first one. Let's just cut out the middleman. It's just the app and minifigures. Someone at Lego looked at TikTok and thought, I want that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, why the sets they are releasing now, the stages, like that car and the ship, those are actually pretty cool. And I like how they have like different sides, so you're getting like 2 stages in every set. That's really neat. I'm like, why didn't they lead with that? Well, maybe there wouldn't have been such a controversy if they revealed those first, because then people could take it somewhat seriously as an actual Lego theme. But nah.
Now, I was wondering about this because in Lego Rewind, you focus a ton on like the old space themes, how every wave or every sub theme was just a faction. Do you think factions themes could still work in today's, or do you think every theme needs to have a conflict, or like good guys and bad guys?
Well, depends on how simple or complex it really is. Because I can think of a theme that has numerous factions in it, all running basically at the same time, and it just paints this bigger tapestry of a world, much like old Lego Space did. Chima.
Yeah.
Chima had like 5 tribes represented in his first wave, and then they got to the gorillas in the second wave. But you had like 6 in that first year, and then they just kept piling on more and more. And I just love seeing how fleshed out they are, with where most of the tribes get like at least 2 or 3 vehicles, and it really feels kind of like Lego Space to me, where you're just seeing all these factions running alongside each other and frequently bumping into each other. And they were still able to do that whole conflict in a box thing where you have, like 2 sides represented. But just because there were so many factions right out the gate, there were so many combinations, and you could just take them from each set and mix them up and make whole armies. And it was just great. And I'm thinking, if Lego was ambitious enough, they could do that again. They could make something like, imagine Ninjago, but instead of like just the ninja characters, if there were tribes of ninja, like in the old ninja theme, where there was a whole clan of green ninja or red ninja or whatever, and they had different vehicles and aesthetics. They could do something like that. Yeah, they could do anything they wanted, where you have a bunch of factions together. But I just don't think they have it in them right now.
No.
For some reason, they have decided that is too much to invest in a Lego theme. That unless it's something licensed, they just don't have the confidence to do that now.
Actually, I find it funny because licensed fans, they always complain about how unlicensed themes get so much love, but unlicensed themes fans, we always complain about how license gets all the love.
So wait a second. So fans of licensed themes, they seriously get upset when Lego does their own stuff?
Yeah, I had this discussion with someone on Discord recently that they were saying like the Monkey Kid designers need to work on Star Wars because Monkey Kid gets too much love and Star Wars doesn't. And I was
Lego's
like,
been
why?
making Star Wars for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what do they want? Do they just want Lego to only do licensed stuff? Do they just want Lego to not? I don't want to be in the same room.
It always makes me mad. Yeah.
I don't want to be in the same room as these people. I'm scared of them.
Yeah, completely.
I don't trust them.
Especially like with this new age of social media, we get a lot of just minifigs fans. They don't care about the sets. They just care about minifigs, and they only care about Marvel and Star Wars figs.
See, that's another area where I differ with people, because I used to not care about minifigs at all, because I was a Bionicle guy. I liked figures. I liked the sets that were like an entire character and just how customizable they were. But you also have to remember that there was a time when minifigs were a lot simpler and the printings weren't as good or whatever. And with themes like Chima, when that came out, I feel like that was the point where things really changed. Well, a combination of that and themes like Ultra Agents. Like Ultra Agents had all these great supervillain designs. And Chima, had its animal tribes. Even Galaxy Squad had some pretty cool designs. And I feel like that was the point where minifigs really lived up to their name and were mini action figures, where you could give them different armor and weapons and all sorts of like little pieces that we didn't used to have. That was the point where I started taking minifigs seriously. And now I love minifigs.
Yeah.
I get like a new Chima set. I gotta have the minifigs because they complement each other. I get a new, like just any old set I collect now, I have to have some minifigs. I'll even collect a couple extra just so you can have, like the pilot or driver of a set and a couple other guys doing their own thing, walking around with metal detectors or whatever. But to me, it's like just the minifigures isn't enough either, because I friggin' love most of Lego's builds. They're getting better than they've ever been. And I just don't understand people who only like Lego for one thing.
Yeah.
People who only want minifigures or only want Star Wars. I don't even understand people who only want Bionicle. I love like the wider, range of Lego.
Yeah, no, also like to your arguments, like if you only have minifigs, what's the world you're building? Like you need the sets.
I guess they just imagine it.
No,
Which, all right,
like
whatever.
I've seen like recently I did a TikTok video and I saw just like on TikTok you see a lot of these people that the rooms is just minifigs. It's all minifigs. They don't have any sets. Like they get the set, they get the sets, get the figs, sell the sets.
That to me is an addiction. That is just a compulsion. And admittedly, it's an easy addiction to have. If you find a faction of minifigures that you really like, it can be easy to lose track of just how many you have, and then you have like a few more than you need. But I don't understand people who get like hundreds of one minifig. People who like they wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is scour Bricklink or eBay to see if like another one of this minifigure has appeared, and they grab it just to make sure no one else can have it.
Yeah.
I do not understand people who need armies of the same minifig just eating up space. I'm like, what do they get out of looking at the shelf and seeing that? If I see that and all I think is, wow, that sure is a lot of other people who will never get to play with those.
Yeah. Now, changing the topic a bit.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Point is, Lego is best taken in moderation. Don't lose control of your hobby.
That's all. Well, actually, something happened to me recently where I couldn't stop buying sets. I was just like, because I mean, I use Bricklink, but I always go Facebook first because I see better deals on Facebook because it's mainly people who they don't know what they have. They're just getting rid of it. And most of the times it's in really good conditions. And so I had this problem where I couldn't stop spending money. And since now I'm making money on YouTube, I'm like, well, I'm getting it back. But yeah, that's why the Bone Demon was like the last thing I'm getting, next September. Like I told myself August, September, and October, I'm not getting anything.
Okay, you just reminded me of something. I'm just making sure I bookmark it before I forget. But yes, for those wondering, no, I do not have the Wave 4 Monkey Kid sets yet. I will get them in August, and I will eventually find ways to make videos about all of them.
Actually, I got asked the other day, like, do you know when Nick is dropping the mega review?
Guys, you have to understand, I'm about to keel over like Mozart. I am working on so many things so hard lately. There just aren't enough hours in the day. Yeah. I will make time sooner or later for the mega reviews, but I got to condense them. I got to find a way to make it so that each one only takes like a week to edit as opposed to a month. And I got to make them much shorter than the first one was, which won't be too hard. Like the first mega review, which, if I review Lego, that's how I do it. I look at a whole wave and the trends and the broader context for it, kind of like I do for Lego Rewind. But at least there are a few things I can cross off the list when I make another Monkey Kid mega review. I don't have to talk about the minifigures from the first wave that have barely changed. People can just watch that first part. I don't have to talk about, the wider lore of Journey to the West, or how it compares to themes like Ninjago, or how Americans don't know anything about it, because I already talked about it in the first video. So whatever I make next, I can just focus on the sets. So at least the waves like 2 and 4, those will be much shorter. Those will probably be like 10 minutes each. And, wave 3 will probably be a little longer. So hopefully I can make all 3 of those in the time it took to make the first one. Nice. I just got to clear some things out to get to them. And then I'll do them all like back to back to back.
Actually, fun fact, your mega review got me into Monkey Kid.
Oh.
Yeah, you're a huge inspiration for my channel in general. Like you're the guy who got me back into Lego. But watching your mega review, that I was just like, the way you talked about Monkey Kid and how you talked about, the bull demons having, these, what's it called? The thing from the Dragon Horse set, the side build.
Oh, the toll booth.
Yeah, the toll booth. Just having them around the city, patrolling, just seeing your army, because you had what, 2-3 bull clone tanks?
I had 2 bull clone tanks. Yeah, at that point I got in every other Monkey Kid set, and I had a little bit of money left over, so I thought, I'll get a second one. And maybe I'll put one of the commander bulls on it and a flag and dress it up differently or whatever. But it was also just that sometimes having multiples of a set like that, a medium range, but still pretty intimidating set, can make for great displays like that, where you get the impression it's a presence. It's a whole army of these things. And I love that idea for the bulls, especially that the bull tank would be their standard, like mass produced thing. And then I was
Wait.
able to get the pieces to construct a couple more of those little boats. I
Mhm.
didn't buy like two more of the HQs. No, I just got the pieces for the boats on Bricklink. That's why I like factions like that are very massable.
Yeah, and actually, just seeing your army, I got into the Monkey Kid, and that's how we started watching the show. So,
Wow. It's funny. I got a few other responses kind of like that. People saying like, "Wow, I didn't know anything about Journey to the West, but now I'm fascinated. I want to
oh,
learn
actually,
all
same
about
thing.
Sun Wukong."
No, same thing. I didn't know Monkey Kid was based on Journey to the West, and now I haven't finished it, but I bought the book. I'm halfway through it. I'm really enjoying it, even though it's
Wow,
really long.
that video has 100,000 views now. It's like I stopped checking on it for a while. Then I look at it recently, I'm like, whoa. So hopefully the other videos will do, at least like half as well. But the funny thing is, I've also been getting a couple of responses. Like there was a guy who works at a Lego retail store, and he said that a family came through that was asking about Monkey Kid. And like, oh, you're interested in this theme? It's like, yeah, there's this guy on YouTube who looked at like all the sets at once, and it sounds interesting. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Small world.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I love Monkey Kid, but in part it's because of you. Like the
Well, thank
way
you.
the way you painted Monkey Kid to be this, this futuristic world, but with Chinese mythology behind it. How cool the sets look together. Like for a
Yeah,
long
that's what
time,
I really wanted to communicate that to people. See, that was another case, like the G2 mega reviews, where I was trying to validate something, and because I saw all this, sorry, I almost swore, all this bad discourse. Just people going like, "Oh, this team looks so stupid. It's just a Drago again," or "Oh, they're just pandering to China or whatever." And I wanted to show, no, guys, this is a really cool theme based on a really cool classic, like one of the most beloved folk tales in the world. And so I wanted to show, mostly us Americans who knew nothing about, Journey to the West, everything that was behind this theme. And since then, Lego's released a documentary narrated by Sean Schemmel himself, showing how they went through the whole process and how, the guys at Lego, had to send people over there to immerse themselves in China's culture. And then they're like, hey, why don't you make a theme about Sun Wukong? And like, who? The Monkey King. Is like, never heard of him. And like everybody in China knows who Sun Wukong is. Like all these kids who wanted to be the Monkey King. And I love that moment where they show the kids the sets. And
yeah,
immediately they recognize it, like, oh my gosh, that's Sun Wukong. Oh, that's so neat. And you see their reactions, and it's so pure. I'm like, that's nice.
yeah. I watched
I wanted to show
the
people that.
documentary back in March, and it's the documentary is so good. Especially it just shows how like the full process. Because right now I'm studying industrial design. I have my background is in design. I love sculpting. I love just production. So I want to work for Lego eventually. And so just watching that documentary and how everything was made and showing to kids, it was mind changing.
I was happy that I didn't just get people into the theme, but into the novel. Because yeah, again, it's one of the most widely beloved novels out there, but only on that half, that side of the planet. It's like hardly anyone over here seems to know about it. So I wanted to spread the word. And it's funny. I'm not saying it's because of Monkey Kid, but there is a lot of Wukong stuff going around now.
Yeah.
It's like he appeared in Smite. That there was a Wukong in that Fate series. They're making that Black Myth Wukong game now, and it's just interesting. Like so many people over here now are discovering Journey to the West and the character of the Monkey King and falling in love with it.
Actually,
like, oh my gosh, this is great.
When I bought the book, I saw a review and it said Sun Wukong is way too much like Goku, and I just started laughing.
See, that's the thing that really bugs me is when people have no sense of time. Like, wait, what did they think came first? How old do they think Dragon Ball is?
Oh, no, you know what's worse? I saw someone once ranting about Monkey Kid saying how Macaque and Wukong are like Wu and Garmadon. And I was like, Macaque and Wukong are like much older than Wu and Garmadon.
I'm surprised they don't just like say that, oh, they're too much like Sonic and Shadow.
Oh man. Okay, no.
Okay, sorry, I gotta tell you something. In my next couple mega reviews, I'm gonna have a couple of scripts. I mean skits, like at the beginning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have a couple involving macaque, especially when I get to the third wave.
Oh yeah, you told me
So
about this. Yeah.
yeah, but I might as well tell your audience
Oh,
about this.
okay. Oh,
So
okay.
I have I have two ideas for skits. One will be a recreation of the scene from Sonic Adventure 2, where you have Wukong and Macaque, and they're going like, "Faker, I think you're the fake monkey around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Huh, you're not even good enough to be my fake." So I'll have that. And when I like review the Macaque minifigure, I'll have Shadow's theme, "You Throw It All Away" playing in the
Okay.
background. But then I'm gonna have another skit, probably at the beginning of that video, where I recreate one of the funniest chapters of the novel, where it wasn't just Macaque. He met like a bunch of guys on the road and got them all to impersonate Wukong's team to try to take over the stories. It's just like the stunt doubles scene from Spaceballs. So I'm gonna have them I'm gonna have Wukong going like, "Okay, no more distractions. We're making a beeline for those scrolls and nothing's gonna slow us down. Let's go." And then the camera pans and you see they're imposters. So you have Macaque. And then I will have a Porky Pig minifigure instead of Pigsy, a
Okay.
cave troll from Lord of the Rings instead of Sandy, and I guess one of the like villagers from Minecraft instead of the monk, who will be Tang in this case. And so they're just like, "What?" That's gonna be fun, just recreating that scene from the book.
Yeah. Actually, I really like how you film Lego. I was watching your Hero Factory videos, like the movie, the short films you did,
Ah, those are so bad.
and they're really good. They're really enjoyable, even to this day. I really had a blast watching them. Like you really treated them like films, like they're actual shots.
Thank you.
And you do the same thing with Lego, like in your mega review.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought I could be like a filmmaker, but I just love holding the camera going like.
But like, did you have any do you have any background in like filmmaking, or was it just like
Nope.
watching films? You learn. Okay, wow.
I just felt like it. It
Okay,
seems to be how I do almost everything. I just feel like a hobby, then I take it up.
wow. I thought you had a like film background for some reason.
Nope.
And like writing, you also you didn't go to college for writing, or because
No.
you're really good. You're a really good writer. I remember when I read your scripts, I was like, I took so much notes because like this is how you write a script. Like they
Thank you.
have actual you have an intro, you have a what's it called? Like I don't even know the proper terms, but
I
yeah.
am a big thing that I mean, Lego Rewind has definitely helped. I mean, everything I've ever written has helped because like a decade or so ago, my comics were crap. Just the writing, my prose, my autism was still severe enough that I just didn't have that good of a grasp of how people talked in casual conversation. So I would have all this prose that sounded really really fancy but wasn't relatable, and just the bits of feedback that people would give me here and there, and even just talking to them normally helped with that. And then when it came to videos, I look at some of my oldest videos and I can't even listen anymore. Probably because of my still to delivery, but also just because I made my scripts too darn long. And there was no reason for it because it's not like I was monetizing my videos at the time. And over the course of Lego Rewind, I learned how to make my scripts tighter, to constantly be making some kind of a point or a joke or whatever and move on. Because I don't want to make videos that I myself wouldn't enjoy watching, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to annoy people by going like, "Hey, like, comment, and subscribe" at the end, because I've realized that like subscribers don't even really mean anything nowadays, because it's really easy to have a huge base of subs that don't even watch your stuff, that were basically there for the one thing. So I try not to focus on that stuff much because I realize how unstable it is, but also just because I realize like if I front load a video talking about all this stuff for like 30 seconds, it's going to turn people off. That's why even the Patreon thing, I just had this little like 5-second screen at the beginning that looks like an old VHS tape. Basically, but like with the scripts, I swear, some of these like Star Wars lore videos and stuff, I try to sit through them and I can just see that the person is padding this out, like finding 5 different ways to say the same thing, or even just speaking very slowly. And it just gets hard to listen to because I can see this. Okay, come on, hurry up. I end up having to watch some videos at double speed. So with my videos, I try to make a nice pace and not dwell on any one thing to the point where it becomes played out. So and it was over the course of Lego Rewind that I learned how to do that. Like if I tried making the Bionicle video at the start, it would have been at least 2 hours long. But as I got better, as my writing tightened up, I was able to make each video feel more like a statement. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling now. I'm doing the very thing I said I wouldn't do.
No, please do.
But really, like the zenith of that was the Monkey Kid video because I had so much to say, and I was worried it would be longer than 45 minutes. But now that I've really made my point with that first one, I feel like there's a lot of ground I don't need to repeat or cover again in parts 2 and 3 and so on. People got it the first time. They know now like why this theme is important. Hopefully.
Well, actually, something you said a bit ago that's something I have issues with. The pacing. How to make a video interesting, how to not pad it out. I just quick to the point. Even though my videos are kind of short, or at least the scripted videos are kind of short, I still feel like drag a ton. So
I've seen your videos and I do enjoy them. And I'll be frank, I do see places like here and there where I'm like, you could have shaved like 3 or 4 words out there, but it's extremely minor, dude. Like if you had less scruples, if you were, like another YouTuber who was just in it for whatever, I could see you like artificially extending these videos to be like 9 or 10 minutes long because that's what the algorithm likes. But no, you don't do that. You make the video as long as it needs to be. You make your point, move on to the next thing.
Yeah. But it's still, I have like recently I've had a lot of issues with that. I can't find what I try to say, or like I'm working on a Next One Night series, which is, it's like, I want to review each season. Like, cause I know Next One Night gets a ton of hate and I've never seen Next One Night. So I was like, I might as well watch it since nothing is going on right now.
I binged the whole series recently. I was surprised by how not bad it was.
Yeah. That's something like in the first video is like 20 minutes, but then like the second one is like 10. Because the first video, I go in depth with like my complaints, but like my conclusion is like the show is enjoyable. I think like Next One Night is really rough at the beginning. Like the first 4 episodes, I had a hard time watching, but like after the 5th episode, I kind of got the gist of it. And I just like, okay, it's an episode. It's not serialized at all. It's very much episodic. Just enjoy the storylines, enjoy the chaos.
It helps that the voice acting is much more professional.
Jestro,
it's not like, oh, me want flower.
Jestro is so good though. Like Jestro is so good.
Oh yes, Jestro's voice is perfect, and I love like towards the end of the first half of the series when he starts like breaking down, when he loses his book, and you just see him like melt up, like, oh no. I'm like, oh man, I actually kind of feel for this guy.
Yeah, no, Jestro is one of those characters. Is one of those villains you actually root for because you feel
they did him so dirty in the second half. Like, good lord, he was rehabilitated, and after like all the development he went through in those like later episodes, they just zap him evil again, literally and metaphorically, completely reset his character. And you have to wonder like how much of this is even his will. Because a couple episodes later, you see him like start to turn back to normal, and then he's like, nope, ain't having none of that. So I'm like, oh, great, yeah. So, oh god, why couldn't they just make another vessel for Monstrux?
I actually really enjoyed. I don't know if you remember this episode where they like go to like fake Comic-Con, which is like Comic-Con, but it's it's one of my favorite episodes. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Oh man, that's one of the most fun. That's the most fun part of the series is just Jestro and Monstrux when he's the book, just talking back and forth and working out these plans. And it's not always like, oh, destroy this or that or whatever. There's a lot of sneaking around, and it's just interesting, like the logic of these characters. Even Monstrux going like, hey, I should eat some of today's books, it'll teach me more about today's world. I'm like, yeah, no, that makes sense. That's a good idea. Oh, it's so good. Like, I'm not going to pretend this series is great.
No.
But it's a lot better than some of Lego's other animations. And it just makes you think, wow, if only they could like make other series that were at least that tier. But it's basically just Ninjago now. That's why I'm rooting so hard for Monkey Kid. because we've never seen Lego make a show like this before. And I want it to succeed. I don't know if it is, but I hope it does.
It's actually doing really good. I'm surprised.
Really?
Apparently, the Bone Demon is selling really good.
Nice. Well, that's one thing that I've heard is that most of the sets sell just like well, at least over here. But now and then you'll have a set like the Wukong mech or the Bone Demon that just sells out immediately. And I've realized a part of it is probably because of the show, because people saw that episode and thought the thing was really cool and wanted it.
Also, I got a comment recently from someone who lives in Hong Kong, and he says Monkey Kid is selling extremely good over there.
Thank God.
He said his Toys R Us is like completely sold out.
Thank Matanui. Because at first it seemed like the theme wasn't selling well, mostly because of older people who thought this is disrespectful to our culture. Lego should have just retold the original novel completely accurately. What's with this future crap? But thankfully, though, it seems that those voices are not prevailing.
Yeah, I also get really weird comments from. I know it's like translated from Chinese to English, but it's a really weird comments of people saying like, "Oh, I met Sandy today." I'm like, I don't know what to respond to this.
Wow. Before I forget, there's something about Nexo Knights. So much of the hate was undeserved, but you
completely.
know where it came from. It was the mishmash of tropes. People going like, "Oh, what? It's medieval but futuristic. That doesn't make sense." I'm like, guys, it's just Wakanda. It's just European Wakanda. But even then, when you look into the lore of the series, it's pretty fascinating. Because they keep talking about like, 100 years ago when you see Murloc and the others younger, and it is more of a traditional swords and sorcery type of setting. And then you have episodes like where, Lance's movie or the convention where you see the old yellow or golden castle and people wearing the armor that the minifigs back then did.
So I love that reference. Yeah.
So is Nexo Knights a sequel to those older castle themes?
Yeah, technically
it's just like
100
years.
Yeah,
and that's amazing. So we went from that to solid light bridges and robots and lasers and force fields and jets and all this stuff in just 100 years. How did that happen so fast? But it's interesting.
I mean, magic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's that old Isaac Asimov thing where it's like, at some point your magic will be indistinguishable from technology because the tech will be so amazing. So yeah, I like this. I like this idea that the technology advanced faster than the culture possibly could. And that's why everyone still dresses the same and stuff.
But if
sorry, before I forget, this is the point I was trying to make all along with this. I don't understand the Lego fans, the older like AFOLs, who were turned off by the mishmash of like future tech and it's like a combination of nights in space. I'm like, guys, this is how you're supposed to play with Lego. It's like kids, they'll use whatever Lego sets they have and mix them up. That's like the entire point of Lego, is to mix things up and make new things out of them. And here they just made a theme that was like that out the gate. If anything, I think Nexo Knights embodies the spirit of Lego more than most themes do.
Well, you once told a story about how someone you knew, or I think it was a friend of yours, had the Hogwarts Express, but he only had Mars.
Yeah, he had the Hogwarts Express and Life on Mars sets. Life on Mars. Back when those sets were new, and he didn't need to like give this kid permission to play with them together. No, the girl just put Hogwarts on Mars because that's what kids do. Yeah. It's the Andy from like Toy Story style of play.
I remember as a kid, I used to like have my favorite toys and just team them up like the Avengers. It was like Indiana Jones, a Batman, Superman, all that stuff.
And that's why I'm so confused that people would hate a theme that gives you everything you need for that right out the gate. I'm like, what? I swear there's so many Lego fans who just don't understand Lego or don't appreciate it to the fullest.
Well, I think that their context is really matters, and maybe their context comes from a more conservative background.
Yeah, and I
get things can only be this way.
And I guess it kind of helps in my case that I basically made it my job to research everything Lego's ever made, so I'm able to appreciate the wider context and their body of work.
Yeah, you have some really like deep knowledge of Lego. Like I remember the what's it called, the robots you showed me once from the Disney show. it's called the Lego
Little robots.
Little Robots. Yes, that was such a like
That's some deep lore right there.
yes. Okay, now going back to the question I was going to ask, if you could create a Lego theme, what would it be?
Planet Ripple.
Planet Ripple, like completely just like Aqua Planet or Aqua.
No,
builds?
I mean literally just the characters and builds from my comic series. I would want to make Lego sets of them. I would want a Minnow minifigure.
Okay, so like if Lego offered you to buy Planet Ripple and make it sets, would you sell it?
Buy Planet Ripple. I'm not sure that's how licenses work. It
Oh
just
yeah.
means that they would get to make toys, but nobody else would
Oh no,
until they got the license.
Yeah, you're right.
It would just be like when Lego made Turtles for a while, then Mega Bloks made Turtles.
Yeah, I get, yeah.
So yeah, if I could license,
Okay, so
if I could give Lego the rights to make Planet
Planet
Ripple
Ripple.
sets, oh yes,
okay, so
and if possible, I would want to be part of the design process.
sure, how much time? Okay,
I'm sorry, you just reminded me. Okay, so I don't know how much you know about Planet Ripple, but the main
I've
character,
seen your logs.
Minnow,
Yeah.
so she was born without limbs. She needs prosthetics. They just like
Yeah.
clip on and off. And even the way her machine works that she uses to fight pirates, that also has like detachable limbs. And basically, like it can't fit an entire person inside. It's too small. So she's just like lowered by a winch into the center, and they just put like these nodes on her shoulders and hips and head to help her control, the suit. So it becomes her arms and legs. And I realized if you had action figures that did that you could take apart and connect that way and rearrange the limbs, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just Galador.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, isn't that Galador? I mean, but I've had that idea too. I remember I had like this concept for like a Ninjago season a while back, and one of the characters was like, do you remember Generator Rex back in 2010?
Yes.
That like the character is pretty much Generator Rex. And then I was
Wow.
told by someone like, isn't that Galador? I was like, oh yes, it is Galador.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a character who can just change into whatever they need that moment is really fun.
Yeah. Okay, now I think we've gone. I think I've taken too much time for you, so I just want to finish with one question. How do you see yourself in 5 years?
Dead. I'm kidding.
Like, do you still see yourself on YouTube? What type of content do you
yes.
see yourself doing?
It really depends, because I'll probably have burned through most of my mods by then. I won't be able to make more videos about those. I probably won't have much to do with like Lego Rewind, and there's a chance that by then I'll have made like all the videos I can about Planet Ripple until I have released more books at that point. So unless I really just take my time and only do videos on occasion, I'm probably going to run out of things in a few years. We'll see. I mean, Lego Rewind just came out of nowhere. I'll find something. But looking that far ahead is just strange.
Yeah.
Now look, it really depends on what happens by that time. Like if I meet somebody and have a kid or whatever, like I'm already having to take time to like look after my farm animals and whatnot. So there might come a point where I'm only able to make videos now and then, like once a month. And my followers will just have to be okay with that. We'll see. But I'll keep making videos as much as I can for as long as I can.
Actually, I don't think you'll ever burn out of mods, because I mean, I've known you for what, 3 months now. We've been talking for like 3-4 months. You always come up with new ideas. I think that's the thing I most admire about you, is you're always thinking about the next thing. You're always pitching me like, oh, I have this idea. Well, this set, I'm going to change this. And that's like, you're so influential that I've even started to like see the sets and I'm like, oh, I could change this and make it for this.
Someone on Instagram sent me pictures of a mammoth mod that they made.
Oh, wow.
Inspired by my videos.
Yeah.
So,
I really think the mixed mods thing, it's an amazing concept you're really doing. And it's something,
thank you.
I think you're really going to inspire more people to, because for a long time, people just, they build their sets. They just leave it there. Even like most of my sets are very like, I don't really mod anything, but after watching your vids, I'm like, I could mod this. I have the talent. I have the ideas. Like I recently got I don't know if you know the Enter the Serpent, the temple from Ninjago. Let me show you. It's this
Wait,
one.
is it one of the C-bound sets?
No. It's the what's it called? The from tournament. Oh, I think it just broke. Okay, let me
Use both hands. It's okay if you're out of frame for a sec.
Okay.
Okay.
It's this one. And it's really thin. So I was like, okay, I could just expand this. Like I don't need to complain about it being thin. I can just make it deeper.
And like that is like the weird inverse of it, because on one hand, we don't want to be able to tell Lego, hey, it's okay if your sets are really skimpy, because we can just fix them. Now, it shouldn't be our job to fix them. But
like if that's
if you
the fact,
have a set, if you can think of a way to improve it, no one's gonna stop you.
Yeah, and I think that's the impact you've had on me. You just inspired me to do more things with the things I have.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's like I feel like I should make this my mantra now, that the build is never finished.
Yeah.
I've said it a couple of times in videos, but it's true. It's only finished if you just, again, let it sit there. But there's always the possibility for you to do whatever you want with a Lego set. It's not like Lego's gonna come to your house and go like, boom, 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 you need to follow the instructions. That's not gonna do that. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. So yeah, I really wanted to. That's why when I started this, because originally when I started the channel, I wanted it to be a podcast. Like that's why it's called My Break Opinions. But then nobody I reached out to a couple of people, nobody responded. So I thought like I need to establish myself first before I do the podcast. And so now a year later, now that I've established, who I am, the channel and stuff, I really wanted to do this just so I could talk with people I really admire and just learn from them. And so I'm really glad you accepted the invite. You're someone I've always looked up to.
Shucks.
I'm happy I consider you a friend. I don't know if you consider me a friend, but I'm happy I consider you a friend.
I always get a little, I'm always taken aback just because people tell me like, oh, Nikon's great or whatever. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just like, it's the most rudimentary editing software, just the most basic like jump cutting and cross fading and stuff. But people tell me that my stuff has inspired them or impacted them. And I'm always shocked just because there's just something in my head, I guess imposter syndrome, that keeps saying I don't deserve it. And so it's like doubly emotional for me.
You really are the best, man. And just
thank
you for reaching out, because you're the one who reached out to me. Like I would have never reached out to you. Like I was just I see you, like I had you on like, I don't know. I didn't idolize you, but you were such a but how do we say this? You were like this figure. I didn't think I could just ever talk to you.
Influencer.
And so when you reached out, I was astonished. I remember the first time you commented on one of my videos. I was in class. I was in woodshop. I was like making some cuts in my backyard because it was like online school. So I had to buy like wood equipment, and I was like just doing stuff. And then I got a notification from YouTube, and I never got notification from YouTube, like when people commented. And then I see Nikon Planet Ripple, and I started screaming. I was like, oh my God, Nikon Planet. And then I remember I was going to reply, but I was like, no, let's take a minute.
What comment was it?
It was like on one of the May videos. I remember it was like, you talked about like,
how she's basically a comment writer.
Yeah.
And so it's fitting for her to get her like late season super transformation,
which she never got.
Yeah, no, she never got. Only in the sets.
Yeah, it's only in the sets.
They better do that in the next season.
Yeah, hopefully. I think something I talked to the creator, Monkey Kid writer, and he talked about like they didn't want to just use the sets. They wanted the sets to have a purpose in the story. So that's why sometimes you don't see sets, or they just referenced. Like Maze Jet was also never in the season 2. It just referenced because it just didn't make sense for the story.
Well, she could use it to fly to a place.
Yeah, but they
I'm just horsing around. But seriously though, with this new season where they're all battered and bruised and they gotta lick their wounds and go on this new quest, that's the perfect time for them to just draw her with a new suit.
Yeah. I saw apparently a leak, which it sounds fake, but it's like apparently we're getting the Dragon King.
That would be fun.
Yeah, especially because I envision it being like a very like how do you say Asian inspired dragon?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the proper term. I don't want to get in
The
trouble.
whole lion snake kind of dragon.
Yeah. And yeah, I would love to see that, especially because apparently it's gonna be like the leak. I have to say quotes the leak because it's I doubt it's true. It's like just someone DMing me like, hey, I have news from Monkey Kid. It's coming out in January. It's gonna be
My dad
100
works at Lego.
yeah. It was just like a DM being people, someone being like, hey, don't tell anyone. I got this info. Like no source. It's like source. Believe me, bro. That was the source. That was the source. But apparently it's gonna like he gave me like a set number, which is not that hard. But he gave me set number, a piece count, like release date, name, and pricing, which is apparently 150 bucks.
You know, like in that, you know, I commented on that video because I just, whenever there's like a new wave advertised, I immediately like just see what people have to say about it because I'm interested. You know, I like seeing these like people's first reactions. And so often, of course, you have people saying like, I have no idea what this is. I don't understand what this is. I've never read the novel. I don't know what this means or that means. So it is fun to be able to go like, well, actually, and tell them. And that's what I did. Like in your case is I just like, oh, I want this guy to know what inspired this May redesign, that it's a tokusatsu reference. Because I don't know why. I love informing people. I love being a know-it-all.
I've never really been into Japanese culture until recently because my girlfriend, she's a huge anime fan, and she started Japanese class. So like I knew of Kamen Riders because I watched the American show when I growing up, but I didn't know the full context, and I like that. I always like when I talk to you.
Really good music.
I like talking to you because you know so much stuff. I always like after a conversation with you, I always go out with more information. And it's just fun. Like I remember when we talked about Chima, you talked about how the scorpions, the first scorpion that doesn't really relate to the modern scorpion, and how that would have been, that's a missed opportunity that Chima didn't use.
To make them like the first animals that ever rose up. Yeah. I don't know. To me, the act of learning is fun. I could learn the most random, stupid things like, oh, how bananas almost went extinct from a plague this one time. And that stuff's interesting to me. I love knowing that. So, you know, I love being able to spread the word to people. I try not to do it too much because I know being a know-it-all can be obnoxious. But I just keep thinking, well, I had fun learning about this, so hopefully they'll have fun learning about it too.
I mean, I have fun learning, so it just, yeah. But nice. Especially because you're someone I admired, so I was just like, yes.
But
well, anyways, man, thanks for accepting the invite. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me aboard.